Hello everyone, welcome back. Today it's a bit of escapism. Today we are looking at Tangier, From the Romans to the Rolling Stones by Richard Hamilton. Now, I'd have to admit, I have a bit of a soft spot for Morocco. I absolutely adore its culture, its landscapes, its people, its chaos, its overwhelming assault on the senses. It is an absolutely gorgeous country, which obviously has a very glamorous history as well. However, I have never actually been to Tangier. I spend most of my life in Essaouira and Marrakesh, as well as the desert and the mountains. And whenever I ask locals about the famous Tangier, and I say, oh my goodness, I must go to Tangier, of course, how can I go to Morocco and Tangier? And they always sort of shake their head and say, no, it's not what it was. What's Tangier like now? I say, they say, oh, it's just a big port, nothing there. And you realise that perhaps the magical Tangier is perhaps belongs to the past, like blown away already on the desert wind. And so, considering we can't recapture it today, this is an absolutely fantastic book by Richard Hamilton that brings to life some of the most famous lives and characters that lived and worked and were inspired by Tangier, and also the history of the city itself, which is very much a frontier town into Africa, where communities from all different backgrounds and demographics have met, full of life, full of energy and buzz and chaos. And it's always been a place where, whether it's been the assault of the Romans, you've got the massacre of Carthage, you've got the rise of Islam, you've got the wars, the First and Second World Wars, the British and the French empires. It's just a city that has experienced and been at the forefront of so much change. And Richard here takes us gives us 13 chapters that really focus around 13 lives that really evoke Tangier and what it was all about. Of course, there's the good side to Tangier, the very exciting artistic side with the likes of Henri Matisse, Francis Bacon, William Burroughs, Paul Bowles, obviously, the Rolling Stones, glamorous. But of course, tinged with that was also Tangier was very much a place of vice and inequity. And in fact, Samuel Pepys, who makes up one of the chapters that Richard Hamilton focused on, was absolutely appalled by the criminality and vice that he saw, the endless brothels, the endless sex workers, everyone out on the take. He said God should burn this city down immediately. So there's a real span of opinion here. But of course, that's what makes Tangier such a hot spot and a hotbed of creativity and sharing of ideas and peoples and cultures and communities. So no wonder Henri Matisse had such a fine body of work, but no wonder Francis Bacon found the dark side of Tangier so appealing to him. There's mention of Barbara Hutton's Party of the Decade, where she imported elephants and had the roads widened so that that poor little rich girl could have her Rolls Royce go up to her house. It's also the site of some really sad aspects. So it was a meeting in Morocco where Brion Gysin was finally kicked out of the Rolling Stones. It was also the scene for the final stages of the playwright Joe Orton's life, which ended terribly as well. So there's also real sadness. What I liked about Richard Hamilton's book was the span of it. So we actually start almost bizarrely with Hercules, with mythology of how Tangier was created, how it's seen in the original myths, and how its history goes all the way back to the old Greek and Roman myths. We also have the Romans as well. I particularly like that there is some space in here too for Morocco, the Moroccan monarchy, its psychopathic sultans, its playboys, and some wonderful people like Ibn Battuta. I'm sure that's Ibn Battuta. Yeah, he's an explorer that puts Marco Polo to shame. Sadly, there isn't actually an entire chapter about a woman in here, which is, I have to say, a little bit frustrating. But there is some wonderful mention of people, like I say, like Barbara Hutton and the rest, who also went through Tangier. It's, like I said, it's a city where you almost feel the era has gone. And certainly Richard touches on that at the end of the book when he looks at all the excessive ostentatious wealth that has now come in and privatised great swathes of it. Everyone's putting up walls and having luxurious villas behind walls. There isn't that sense of community, and the sort of perhaps the smells and senses of the Medina have been broken up a bit, and there's now McDonald's there and things, and it's perhaps the magic has gone. So in that way, Tangier is a really beautiful book that captures so much of this beautiful frontier town, frontier city. It is, Morocco is a place I adore. But if, however, you can't get to Morocco, Tangier is just a great way of bringing to life that magical city with some of its most famous residents. Tangier by Richard Hamilton.